Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Okay, welcome back. Well, as you know, May 20th is the primary for the state of Oregon. There we go. And a lot of folks are running for various offices and get through the primary. And of course, in the county, Jackson County, we have several seats open for commissioner. And one of the candidates is with us today, and he's got the most interesting name that I have butchered it so many times. And Joel, you've been so kind because you said, don't worry, you're not the first one, right?
No.
Give us the proper pronunciation.
The pronunciation is Ockunzzi. It's
Ockunzzi.
3 syllables.
Okay.
Now, you being a pilot, you might remember by Oscar Charlie Kilo Uniform November Zulu India.
Well, there we go. Ockunzzi. There you go. And he has got signs everywhere. I have never seen so many signs out there. You're doing a good job on the sign thing. Well, welcome, Joe. Nice to have you. You've been around for quite a while. You've been a rancher and real estate. What decided you to go for this? And I know you ran last time, came close, but you're at it again. What's your concern here?
Well, you know, my wife and I met actually Easter weekend of 1980, and we moved here directly from there when we got married about 3 months later in July. And when I came to the Valley, again, speaking back to aviation, the only vehicle I owned was a 1956 Cessna 182. And so I flew that into the Valley, and then I hopped a United flight back to Colorado where we had gotten married, and then we drove back out and started work on the following Monday. So, so we've been in the area since 1980. All our 3 kids, Jody, Joel, and Jordan, were all born here. They all went through Grace Christian School and Cascade Christian School systems, and then they all 3 graduated from Southern Oregon University.
Wow.
So we've got a long history in the Valley in particular, and we've owned property in various areas of the Valley, from across from Ashland on the hillside up there on Pompadour Drive, to East Medford up in Sunridge Estates, and then currently have this ranch out in the North Valley. And so over time I've been involved in various types of transactions. I was the former Western Division president for a company most of my latter career life prior to getting into real estate. And I've been in real estate for the last be 10 years starting in July with a company that we kind of specialize in rural farm and ranch and commercial properties.
Well, then you've been around the county a lot.
Correct.
And you've seen it through the various cycles that we've gone through, good times and lean times and struggling times. Considering all 36 counties in the state, we seem to be fairly healthy, but we have some concerns out there. How would you prioritize the concerns of the county?
Well, our primary concern is we have this lost revenue due to the loss of the ONC timber sales that used to bring in plus or minus $25 million. So we've been having to kind of supply ourselves out of our rainy day fund, that so-called rainy day fund, and I'm happy to say that previous boards and our administrator have done an exceptional job in preparing us for a downturn of revenues and or income. And so that would be the principal concern that I have, is that we bring back more economy to the area. Secondarily, of course, is public safety. And in fact, my oldest son happens to be a Portland police officer with the Portland Police Bureau, and I come from sort of a police background family. My dad was also a executive lieutenant of a police force back in Ohio, and we've got other relatives involved. So the importance of public safety is very concerning to me as well. And then thirdly, of course, is sensible spending, you know, watching the budget. And back to my reference to being a Western Division president, I was with a company that at the time was under probably $400 million in gross sales in the U.S., but I think nowadays they're maybe in the billion internationally. Wow. And I had the Western Division. I had 14 Western states and British Columbia, and I had full authority for all budget management and operations, as well as sales and asset management and so forth. So I've had a lot of experience with delegation of responsibilities and budget management and those things.
Well, let's take a look at a couple things today. In fact, shortly this morning, the commissioners are meeting on this whole marijuana thing. As you know, the state says one thing, the county's looking at it another way, and then you got the feds looking over the top and saying you can't do all of this. There's a proposed moratorium on, and I'm surprised. More and more cities are saying, wait a minute, we don't want to deal with this.
Right.
We don't want to do. So what's your thoughts on this right now from a county perspective?
Well, I think the moratoriums are a prudent thing to do, and primarily because of the situation of it being federally illegal. Times are changing, you know, and viewpoints on marijuana are changing, and if in fact there is and I suppose there is a medical benefit to that, I guess I wonder a little bit why it's not dealt through pharmacies, but irrespective of that, the state is allowing it. It's likely for us to have a burgeoning community of dispensaries in that regard, but I think it's important to determine what the liabilities are for the various city and county liabilities are.
So if the county comes up with a moratorium, does that give a city an opt-out?
No, not necessarily. The cities are taking their own direction on it as well. In fact, I think they took the original direction on it, starting with Medford. The cities also have licensing. The county doesn't license businesses. There are permits for various things, but as you probably know, they don't license businesses. But you still have to determine where those businesses can locate, and that's the key issue. And I think that's why the board took the prudent approach to step back and say, and along with our planning director, to determine where might these things best be located in reference to all the other things that go on in the county.
Well, the other big issue, as you well know, is going to come up a lot, is the GMO thing.
Sure.
Whether or not that gets on the ballot, I guess that's yet to be seen. But
well, it actually is on the ballot.
Yeah. Well, it is. That's right. Yeah. But I've heard some ads. I'm going, well, here comes the ad war on this, you know. And where are you with that?
Well, I think it's pretty common knowledge that I'm not for the passing of that ban, and the principal reason is it is just not a cost that I think we can afford to even risk. There has been some comment on, well, from the county administrator that suggests that maybe there might not be any cost at all, and I know that the pro-ban folks believe that to be the case. My personal opinion is already cost. You know, we've had time that we've had to allocate time and cost of the commissioners and of the administrator, department heads, also the cost of even putting it on the ballot. So it's already cost the citizens of the county financially to begin with. I'm pretty convinced that it will create a lawsuit, probably the moment after it's passed or very soon thereafter, because it violates, the essence is it violates the Constitution that provides for the Free Farming Act, for farmers to be able to farm so long as they're farming legal produce or product. So I think it's highly likely that the cost of that lawsuit and the liability of the county are there, and it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And I also believe that there still is a mechanism that traditional farmers, and by the way, I happen to be a member of the Farm Bureau and a member of the Cattlemen's Association and the local Stockmen's Association, and there are a lot of products that don't cross-pollinate with the various things. So I think there are ways that we can coordinate our crops and harvesting and so forth. So
in your opinion, is there a GMO problem in Jackson County?
Only in the context that there's a concern. I think it's a manageable concern. They manage it in the Willamette Valley by a seed association, and the principal problem is the seed side of it. Concern that if you're growing a kale or a chard or beets for food, the harvesting situation is different than if you're growing it for a seed. By the way, even if there was no GMO in the county, those threats are there to the seed producers among themselves, because cross-pollination can occur in any way, with anything that will cross-pollinate. But for example, alfalfa won't cross-pollinate with a beet.
Okay, yeah, right. All right, so basically you're not for the ban.
No.
Let me, somewhat down that ag line, water, always an issue, and especially this year.
Right.
We just don't have the snowpack, and it could be quite devastating, not only in communities, but on farmers. What do you see as far as water rights and usage and availability?
Well, over the last 10 years, I've been involved in a lot of water rights review because of my involvement in rural farm and ranch land sales. And by the way, I'm one of maybe a half a dozen real estate brokers in the area that has probably been involved in more thousands of acres of land transactions in this county than anybody ever. I've probably put more boot prints on more acreage in this county throughout than probably any other candidate ever. And we get involved with a lot of water rights issues, and in fact we work with water rights consultants to determine whether someone has active rights and whether they've been applied correctly. And you know, obviously the State Water Resources Board determines and controls the use of water in that regard. So yeah, there's a definite concern, and the concern stems also from the Klamath River Basin, because some of the water that we get for our irrigation districts over here, such as the Talent Irrigation District or the Medford Irrigation District, come from waters that drain through the Klamath River system. And of course the Indians, I should say the natives over there, have claimed time immemorial rights on that. We're going through federal issues relative to who can use the water, and that's all going to play out. So there's not only the potential drought issues, but there's also availability issues based upon who has rights to the water in general. And by the way, back in the mid-'80s, I supplied half of all the equipment that went to construct the Elk Creek Dam, which was constructed halfway, and then because of the political environment at the time, it was chosen to cancel that contract. Right. The contractor got paid off in full, and then the dam was notched with some explosives in a company that I used to be the Western Division president of later on. So, wow. But anyway, so I would have been for retaining that dam because it would have provided storage for water that we could use in drought situations.
We're going to run out of time quickly. I know that the budgets are tight. The sheriff budget may be squeezed. The library budget's certainly squeezed. Your thoughts quickly on those?
Well, you know, I question why we put 15 libraries in the first place, but that's a side issue. They are there. They can only be used for libraries, and I don't think that they can be transferred to any other ownership, such as a city ownership, at least until 2020. So we've got these existing structures there. They can't be operated without funds. So while generally I am not for raising taxes, and in particular I'm for inducements to industry to get into the area by a reduction of taxes through enterprise zones and so forth. In this particular case, I can see the justification to vote for the library measures so that we can utilize those libraries. If the people decide that that's not the way to go, then the next thing is we'll have to privatize it, and I would be working towards that as well.
Okay. And Sheriff's Department?
Sheriff's Department, of course, I think we have a stellar Sheriff's Department. You know, I attended the Sheriff Safety Summit on my own, and by the way, I've been volunteering. I've been on the Planning Commission for the last 9 years, and there is so much involvement in policy that comes directly from land use in our state. Senate Bill 100 back in 1974 really set the tone for how we make policy, and I think that, quite honestly, I'll be the most prepared commissioner maybe ever that has a clear understanding of how land use relates to comprehensive planning that relates to policy and legislation. But back to your comment about that, yeah, we did have a $2 million reduction in our public safety, and we're at a time where we might have to do some interagency activities as well that might be an even greater burden on it, or at least have to determine how to allocate funds for that. So I'm a strong proponent of public safety, and I'll be working with the sheriff.
All right, well, how do people get a hold of you, Joel, if they want to get involved in your campaign, support it, learn more about you?
Well, they can, we have a brand new 800 number. It's 800 Ockunzzi, it's 855 Ockunzzi. Or we also have a new number that, well, that would be the best number probably, or electockunzzi.com.
Okay. 855 Ockunzzi, O-C-K-U-N-Z-Z-I. You see the signs everywhere. Best to you, Joel. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll be right back.